Good morning, Women's Wellness Community. Welcome to your Friday morning meditation on Friday, September the 23rd. And we're going to continue with the fun that we've been having, playing, exploring, maybe not quite yet challenging our thoughts, but we are heading there. We are heading there for sure. I had some great questions and comments from last week as we were surfing our thoughts. We have actually been playing with directing our thoughts, surfing our thoughts. There is the whole concept of being in default mode with our thoughts, and lots of stuff to play with. So good morning, Vicki. Good morning, Suzanne. Good fall morning for sure. So one of the benefits, reasons, purpose of yoga and meditation is to manage our thoughts for sure. And a lot of the writing goes back, of course, thousands of years to ending our suffering, or at least diminishing our suffering that is caused primarily by our thoughts. Now, not all thoughts cause suffering, for sure, but we do have a brain that is very protective and likes to point out what potentially can go wrong. So this is where we have this opportunity to play, for sure. So good morning, Mom. Good morning, Sandra. So we have this opportunity during our meditation. Very often, again, when we're thinking about meditation, sometimes we think, I cannot sit down. My mind is too busy. And this is why we're doing this, let's say this series, is that part of your meditation experience is to know that you can play with your thoughts. So we can go from surfing our thoughts, we can direct our thoughts. Now I'm going to give you the example again of surfing our thoughts is a little bit like daydreaming, except the difference with daydreaming is that if you're sitting out, you're sitting at your kitchen counter, you have your coffee, you're gazing outside, you may not be aware that you're actually surfing your thoughts. You're just looking at the trees or thinking about the weather, thinking about your day. And so that's a little bit like daydreaming, and some describe it, although some separate it, but I'm going to say for this purpose that that's kind of default mode. And we're in default mode actually a good part of the day. Some of the experts say up to 60% of the day, our brain, our thoughts are just kind of percolating in the background, and we're not aware of them actually. So, but if you sit down and you set an intention, I'm just going to rest here. I'm just going to gaze outside. To me, that's daydreaming. Now, if we decide that we're going to surf our thoughts let's say in a practice of meditation, then again, it's an intention, it's an awareness. I had this thought about looking outside, looking at that tree. Oh, well, that's interesting. That just changed to follow the bird that just went by, that just followed the frog that just jumped, out of the lake or pool or onto the pathway. So you notice that your attention is leaving that particular object, and you're surfing it, and then you have thoughts about it. So we have default mode, we have surfing our thoughts. Now directed thought is really interesting as well, because it can be that thing where you're sitting at your kitchen counter or you're going to head out for a walk and you say, I want to figure this out. I'm going to direct my thought and my thought processes to figuring out this particular situation, okay? This thing, that decision that I have to make, and I'm going to direct my thought. Now, you might not sit there and say, okay, directed thought time. But it's kind of what happens. And that is your directed thought. And sometimes when you go out for a walk, or you figure it out, and sometimes when you go to bed at night and you don't think about it, you wake up in the morning and you have the answer, right? So it's kind of mind-blowing, really. It's when you notice actually what your mind is doing, and that is part of this process of reducing reducing our suffering is the terminology used in yoga. So for today, as we go through, I have one more thing. And this came up from Louise last week as she talked about challenging our thoughts. So yes, I'm going to call challenging our thoughts kind of the last part of this, where part of the process is to be aware of our thoughts, and then know that we can direct our thoughts, know that we can surf our thoughts, know that if we're feeling an unease in our body, that it could be our thoughts percolating in the background. We go find it and we can challenge that thought. So we're not yet going to challenge today, but I want you to maybe just to play with this a little bit. So let's say you get to the end of the week, you're sitting in your meditation, all of a sudden this thought pops into your head that goes, oh, I didn't get anything done this week. I just was running around as we say sometimes with just like no intention, chicken, just squirrel. I just didn't do anything. I'm so lazy sometimes. And so this thought comes in and it doesn't make you feel good. It's like, oh, yeah. And then the other thoughts, yeah, it was a lazy week. I didn't do. And then you go to, I'm lazy. Okay, so it's not about the behavior. You start to get very personal with yourself. So what I'm going to suggest, it was when you notice thoughts like that, other thoughts coming up, I'd like you to think about challenging them. And we're going to work into that next week. And you can journal right after your meditation here today. But I'm just going to say, if that phrase comes up, oh, I'm so lazy. I can't believe I didn't get that done. I didn't do anything today or this week. Let's pull up the evidence. And I'd like you to think about actually what you did do during the week, who you did help, who you did speak to, what you did accomplish in your house. When you start to write down, ladies, what you actually did, who you actually impacted, how you just, shone your light this week. Sometimes we don't know that until we start to really challenge our thoughts and we start to write them down and we think about it. So that's where we're going. Thank you, Louise. Yes, actually be very suspicious of your monkey mind, as Diane says. Absolutely. So we are going to play. I'm going to direct you through a little bit of, again, surfing, directing your thoughts, okay, if there's something you want to play with a little bit, and then we're going to release them. And how we release them this morning, a couple of ways. If you have a way that you release your thoughts, if it's seeing them, I see them as a string now. I see this thought like, whatever it is. And it could be, doesn't have to be negative. It could be just any thought, okay? You just see it in a line. Oh, I have to make sure to get, pick up toilet paper at the grocery store. I didn't write that on my list. I have to remember to do that. I see that pick up toilet paper as a straight line, as a phrase, as a sentence that's being dragged behind a plane, and that plane is taking it away, and then I'm bringing my attention back to my breath, to my body in the moment. Okay, so you might see that thought floating away on a cloud. You might see it dissolving. Okay, and that's what we're going to get to for the last few minutes. But in the meantime, we're going to play. Okay? So we're going to settle in and just rest in a way that's comfortable. And it takes a little bit to settle with your breath here. Especially because your mind might have already started to kind of chat a little bit. Again, we're still using our mindfulness meditation is focusing on our breath. When our attention leaves our breath and goes to a thought, okay, we do something with that thought and we bring our attention back to our breath. So over the course of this meditation this morning, just feel free to keep coming back to your breath as an anchor, as a reset. So inhaling through your nose, you might exhale through your mouth, just to settle in. And your eyes truly can be open or closed. I want to remind you that when your eyes are closed in meditation, and let's say before you're going to sleep at night, the mind is busier. There are more thoughts. You have taken away, let's say, the stimuli of what you're looking at. Your mind says, let's go. And that's why meditation is challenging, and that's why our mind is so busy when we try to fall asleep. So as you're following your breath, I'd like you to play with just surfing your thoughts a little bit. Be aware of the thoughts that are coming in, how they're linking. We'll do that for a few minutes. Just notice when the object of your thought has changed, that you've switched to another thought, maybe about another subject, another object, other person, situation. And just check in with your breath. Just feel the belly moving, the air coming in through your nose. As we change now from surfing our thoughts to a directed thought on a particular decision or something that you want to do. Might even be deciding on what you want to wear today or to an event. Or if you have to decide on something for this weekend, a yes or a no or and just direct your attention, your thought process to that decision. And if nothing is coming up for you, just direct your thoughts to today. What you're doing after the meditation. Just see if you can keep your thought and your thoughts on that one decision or, again, situation. Notice your breath. And just notice when your attention leaves that subject. Notice your breath. Come back and reset. As we finish with kind of, say, not no thoughts, but releasing our thoughts. Our attention is on our breath. And when you don't feel the movement of your breath, the temperature, the rhythm, where it is in your body because you're following a thought, let that thought go. And then come back to the feel, the temperature, the tempo, the rhythm of your breath for the last couple of minutes. Feel your face relaxing, your shoulders softening and sinking. The massage, the inner massage of the breath. Keep coming back. And now just notice one sound. Sound of a clock or your furnace, fridge, traffic outside. Just really hear that sound and allow it to bring you back to where you are. Almost as if you're feeling the energy and the vibration of that sound. And then as you start to move your fingers, start to shift or sway and stretch. And slowly start to open your eyes. And just noticing that difference now as perhaps everything seems, and it is a little brighter. Everything is a little brighter. And that is actually another piece to our yoga and meditation, and that is when our mind goes to default, bringing our attention to what we're hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, all of that. So we start to really notice how this all comes together, and sometimes feels a little bit overwhelming, but just know that it's a process. And for some of you, you might say, no, that was really easy. Some of you would say that's really hard. That was really challenging. And it's all what it is, for sure. But I thank you so much for your interest in doing this, because, this is what it's all about. If we have discomfort or pain or challenges in our lives, And we all do, right? It's right here. So, as we bring our hands together, namaste. Thank you so much for joining in this morning, for playing, for exploring. If you have any comments, questions as you play with this over the rest of the day or the weekend, you know where to find me. I love hearing your comments and your and your questions about how to do this. You might say, I'm not really getting this. What do you mean? I love hearing all of that because it helps us all to dig in a little bit more. And we'll see you on Monday morning with Suzanne as I do my scooch. Bye for now.